We are a animation studio, pretty recent compared to all of these people. We are relatively new. There are stalwarts sitting in front of me also. But we happen to be very lucky animation studio. Because when we got into animation and when we did our first animation feature film, it was bought over by Warner Brothers. So that must be the first Indian feature film of any kind which started with a Hollywood Studios logo. It's not acquisition of some studio, it's Hollywood sponsored, produced film with us. That was my first animation film. Then I did a second animation film called Char Sahibzade, which became the only animation film which grossed almost 100 crores of revenue. And which was the only film which ran for 100 days non-stop. That is, that time only other feature film ran for 100 days non-stop was, they laugh at me whenever I say 100 crores. Son. Oh, but they keep, this guy. So that's the, then now we are little more serious about animation.
Yeah.
So we have a television serial right now already into second season called Sheikh Chilli and Friends on Discovery Kids. I have another 2 serials which are be under production, which will start very soon on 2 more channels. We also are making 3 large format feature film of the scale of Char Sahibzade. Very big films, and next year we'll release almost 3 films which are much higher scale than our earlier films. And other side, we are into educational content. So some of the leading school networks, their educational content is being done by us. We have all these OTT contents like nursery rhymes to jokes and all that also. So that has been a journey for last 7-8 years, and yeah, fortunately we are the lucky guys in the whole lot.
Vishal?
Yeah, so I think I have to cut it short. So first of all, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be on this stage. So, I work for Brownback Films. It's a studio in Europe, and they have produced a lot of TV series till now. Like if you talk about Noddy, Octonauts, Olivia, all that stuff, and they are still like producing huge amount of content. My job with the company is like, first thing, I'll tell you the best part about my job. I get to see the world on my company's expenses. So that's the best part about my job. I have to go to the overseas studios where my company outsources the show. I go there and I am responsible to execute it from start to end. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
So Munjal, maybe the one thing that you didn't mention in your previous presentation about yourself. So.
Yeah, I think pretty much said what I needed to say is that, so I'm the co-founder of Graphiti Studios, been in the business for close to 22 years, still very passionate, still very much here, and like I said that, I think at Graphiti, I think one thing I would want to give credit is to my team. I think we are probably one of the oldest teams in the business, and I think I'm very fortunate to have a team which has stuck by through thick and thin. And every day they want to come back and create new stuff. I think that's what excites. I think a lot of the work that you see at Graphiti, we stand for quality. And I think a lot of the times we chose to move against the grain because a lot of the work that in the initial years we did for brands and different communications with agencies was fundamentally driven because when you produce advertising work, it's extremely high quality. And then when you come down to television, like when we did our first show, right, that was the thing, the delivery is paramount, but it's the same team that understood that, adapted, so I think more than me, I would say that it's my team as well that probably doesn't get recognized enough, but I think we are where we are because we have a great team.
Okay, so Prasad, in the animation industry, what are the signs today which show probably we are moving to the next level?
See, I came into this space maybe 7-8 years back, and right from the beginning when we came in, it has always been expected that it will get into the next phase. Unfortunately, it has not that kind of a response. Couple of things I think. One, he said the quality aspect, but yeah, budgets and all that, that is different. But I have a question, and I ask this question to myself. Imagine Walt Disney would have done Chota Mickey, Mota Mickey, Super Mickey, Mickey in the jungle, Mickey in the space, and not done anything else. Would we have the animation industry the way we have? So what is more important is we played too safe. Animation industry played very safe, and particularly people who started much earlier, who are into 10th season and 12th season in the television today. There is not much drastic change in 7-8 years in terms of the products. And then when your products don't change, your audience does not grow to that scale. And when your audience does not grow to that scale, your revenues do not come to that scale. So, very important that there is a lot of risks taken. Very important that you go touching different aspects and explore. One of it works. It's not necessary that you can't templatize it. Most of the times we try to templatize it because something worked. I'll tell you, I tried and gone and bought the rights of Andaz Apna Apna to be made into animation sequel. And I made the film. And then the laws of copyrights changed. That is, producers' rights were reduced and director and writer also has the rights. And that's why that film, after finishing 90%, investing money into it, got stuck. Then I went ahead and made a very serious adult horror animation film, which I'll bring out now. It must be the first worldwide horror adult animation film of a commercial scale. It will work, it may not work, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I feel that for an industry, if I'm representing, I cannot play safe. And if you see the list of 10 shows which Bark guy showed, 9 have the same name. Why? Those same studios could have done better. So there is always, because there is a mass audience, that Marvel films after films, they are touching 100 crores, being English films and then dubbed films, and their culture is different and sensibilities are different. But now this recent one has also crossed, I think, 70 crores of gross or 80 crores of gross. That means we have an audience which can buy 300 rupee ticket, or but we are not giving them what we are. My experimentation is towards that. But yes, this is a big industry. It is growing fast. The boundaries between educational content and entertainment contents are reducing. And, it's, I'm seeing, see, we have become around 350 people now in maybe 4 years? And we are unfunded, that is internally funded and all on profits and everything. So it's growing. That means there is an industry which is growing.
Okay. Vishal, are we, as far as the perspective you have of different markets, so are we really, you feel, playing safe and as compared to other markets?
See, I worked with the Indian studios for almost 12 years. And now, recently I moved out to Brown Bag. The biggest difference I see with the content and the way they capture the audience is we don't have a common subject that attracts everyone. So we make a animation series or whatever, a content that is targeted to a particular audience, and it's not worldwide. For example, the way he said, the Marvel movies are making money and they are interesting to watch as well. But if we see, every single movie has something that attracts the common man. And that's the biggest thing we are missing in our content creation. For example, as he said, 9 out of 10 has the same name, but I would say 9 out of 10 has the same, same subject. There is a friendship, so we have 3 different shows about friendship. So these kind of things, we have to stop. As he said, we have to, think about what actually audience wanted.
I don't understand what are we proud of actually, What animation studios in India are proud of? We have nothing to be proud of. We are a small pond. 1 or 2 are there because 1 or 2 are there with same products for years. And still we are proud of it. what is that we have achieved? We give references. You have traveled the world, right? You know what is happening in smaller countries. There's a film comes from Germany, releases in India called Tarzan a few years back, and everybody sees it. So actually we have to introspect. I feel you guys are stalwarts and much senior to me, but it's time to introspect. What are we proud of? What are we glorifying? The same story we are doing again and again, same assets we have used for years, and still we want to glorify it.
Yeah. So, Munjal, where are we actually lagging behind, and what is the twist in the story that we need to make it really pick up?
See, I think one is if you look at across the last 20 years, our history as an industry, I would agree that we've not innovated enough. I think part of the problem is that whatever has worked, we tried to stick on. So like Hanuman worked, right? And then everyone tried to jump on the mythological bandwagon. I think we didn't spare any gods. Okay, we rescued all of them, but unfortunately none of them came to our rescue. So I think also what happens is that when we produce this kind of content, fundamentally it's not going to travel, because by law or by design or by biases, a lot of these markets won't even look at. You make a Krishna movie, you are going to have a challenge in the Middle East. There are, and I'm saying it's not just because it's Indian. I mean, there are shows even in the West which have a religious tone or a bias. They don't travel well. So I think it's about producing content which we believe travels well. For that, it's the constant dichotomy that do you root it enough here so that it works for your audience, number one, or do you say, no, I'm going to produce something which is going to work across the world. That's, I think, and there is no formula for that. I think Japan didn't give a shit of what happens in the rest of the world, right? After 20 years of being what it was, that's when world discovered anime, right? And when they discovered, there was like thousands of hours of content, right? In 20 years, we have produced at best fan hours, I think that's fundamentally our problem, that even if you have great animation coming from India, how much of it is there? I'll give a simple example. When I produced Krishnish Balti Boy, it was a whim. It was, hey, I want to do this because I think this needs to be done, After that, when I went to the market, everyone said, hey, superb, but yaar, do hi movie hai. We need more, right? Now, for us, we are also self-funded. So it took us a while to keep plowing back funds and producing on our own, right? After 8 years, the Netflix happened. Right? After 8 years of saying, no, we're not going to go onto YouTube, we're going to find the right buyer for us, and that's when we're going to go out. So I think it needs that conviction of saying that if you have a great product and if you're willing to go out, and take a punt, I think you will be rewarded. It's that question is, do we have that appetite for that kind of a risk? That's the first. And I think, and that works both ways, even in terms of broadcasters today, some of the conversations when you have, it's like Indian broadcasters, when they look at saying, yeah, we want to produce something so that when we go and show to our counterparts, hey, look, this is what we made out of India. Fact of the matter is that at what budgets are you operating today? When you want to sit and compare to a show like a Troll Hunters or, some of the stuff that Brown Bag is doing, right? Look at the budgets. And it's not one entity which is producing it. It's not that these productions are funded entirely by Brown Bag. You have a BBC coming on board, you have a Kika coming on board, you have across 4-5 different broadcasters coming on board and saying, yes, we will work together, we will share rights. I think right now, in fact, unfortunately, I find the environment is very strange because you talk to a broadcaster, IP Mera, right? You talk to a VOD guy, say IP Mera. So, what is the incentive for the producer? You expect him to work, no great margins, deliver a kick-ass show, okay, and then what is his upside? I think the model is fundamentally flawed. If you cannot make the producer a partner in the profits, how do you expect him to give him the best? Which is what I was addressing to earlier, that it's a model. I think our model is flawed. And I think it's that maturity will come. Every market needs to find that point of change. And I think that will happen, it has to happen. Commerce will eventually push you to that direction.
Okay.
So Vishal, that depends on, I liked your collaboration concept which we are talking about. That's all of us also, as animation producers, have to also get together.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have, see, it's like some broadcaster says that henceforth we are not going to let the producer own the IP. And then all channels get together and say that they will not let producers. Have we got together? Maybe people are in mad rush to go to a broadcaster and sell their services. So that's the problem. There are people standing outside your studios to see the disgruntled people to be picked up. So how does it work? So that whole problem is there, and I think at some level we have to also get together and see whether we are working together.
I think, like I said, that as an industry we need to learn. So like, I've been to Korea and a few years back, and I was just looking at the industry there. So the way they work is again quite beautiful, that a particular large studio will pick up work, or bid on a project, and eventually they will form a consortium where they will then outsource work to others. Okay, now they have perfected those processes, right? Again, I mean, like I said, that when I visited there, one of the advantages that they have is fantastic bandwidth. So people can actually work from home. So even so on a large show also, literally 50 scenes, 100 scenes are being farmed out to a mom and pop operation. They can still do great work sitting at home and then submit their work, right? I mean, we've done that, I mean, there was a point of time then where we were running a massive team. Today, we've actually said that no, we will groom smaller teams. For Christish Balti Boy, the kind of animation that we do, it's extremely unique. Our pipeline is extremely unique, So what we did is we groomed smaller teams. We send out our people to those teams, So my people would go out there. Sometimes I have personally gone and sat with those teams, But I think it's about, are we really investing in the ecosystem to make it grow? It's a process, So I think that no one person or one studio can do it. I think I agree to his point that as a collective we need to do it. So it's like I said, that while we all come on a forum and say, "Haan, ye karna chahiye," but how much of it do we actually, when it comes to brass tacks, how much do we actually implement it?
Yeah, Vishal, from the ecosystem, basically, which from other markets, what can we basically grasp from these other markets, which actually would make things work better here?
Okay, now like whatever discussion we had now, like I was listening to you guys very carefully, it leads us to like two different ways. First is the content, second is the quality. So first of all, like if we talk about the Indian market, we have to work really hard towards making the content right first, because like we are not globally accepted. Like, if we take any Indian product to somewhere else, like most of the people are not going to understand it. They can't relate themselves to it. Second thing about quality. If we talk about the quality, we are the people. Like if we talk about maybe 60% of the projects are being outsourced to India from the bigger companies. So we are able to produce the quality, but we are not good enough with the content. And now how are we going to do that? So what I think is like, rather going with the, rather going with the methods that we are following from past 10, 15 years, we have to break those. Maybe, we should take references. Like he's saying templating things. Maybe we should try and template that worked out and try to give it a bit.
No, I will disagree to this aspect. See, major problem is, why are we looking at the West and dancing for them?
Okay.
There is a book called Odisha File, which it reminds me always that, when in the concentration camp, these ladies used to dress up well, so that evening when a soldier will come to punish them, he will not punish them. That is what we are doing. We are dancing for the West. We have fantastic market here. Why are we giving us a reference of international product? We are outsourced. The way sugar farms, our farmers went into sugar farms world over, it's the same thing.
Okay, now I have one question for you. Okay, you said we have fantastic contents. Tell me one animation content that's named with the bigger.
Tell me one at a time. No, 1 minute. One at a time, please. Yes,
tell me in 100 years of Hindi cinema, how many films were there? Did you go and ask this question to Shah Rukh Khan? That for 100 years you are making films. In 10 years you are asking animation companies this question. In 100 years, how many Hindi films were abroad? Today also there is an NRI audience. You getting what I'm saying? So let content mature. there are tremendous difficulties to the producers, which he knows more than me, right? In that, even for Green Gold, we are there. We are looking at 1 billion population market. Today, you think Hollywood, why do Hollywood puts Priyanka Chopra in the film? Because her great acting? No, because the market is here.
Yeah.
You know, and that is the market we are sitting at. We are constantly trying to benchmark ourselves with the West. We don't need to. When our ancient Indians built temples, they did not try to make it better than the Roman church. They built the great temple. Let's build the great story for us, whether it's an animation film, whether it's a normal feature film. My next film is being directed, next animation film is directed by 4 times national award winning feature filmmaker.
No, the main question is how are you going to make it better? That's where we are fighting.
It's the maturity, right? We have some 7-8 year experience. You know, the experience of animators today we have.
I think, yeah, see, I think what we need to realize, you know, is that when we talk and today compare ourselves with other industries and say, oh, Indian animation has been around for 20 years, 30 years. You know, my chairman, Mr. Rammohan, you know, today he's 86 years of age. You know, he's been in the space of animation for over 60 years. So technically, yes, Animation India is 60 years old. Okay, but let's look at how much animation we produced in the 60 years. You know, when we start comparing ourselves with the West, look at the volume of work that happens in Canada, look at the volume of work that happens in France. They go through iterative cycles. As a creator today, till I don't create a show, conceive it, produce it, put up on air, take feedback, go back to the drawing board, till I don't do 10 cycles of this, I'm not going to be good. Yeah. You know, I think that's what, I think we are just not realizing that till we don't do enough of this and enough number of times, we're not going to become good at it. Neither will our writers be. For a writer today sitting and writing a show, he needs to see, you know, what is happening on, you know, of what, mere script ka kya hua? What happened? I wrote something, what eventually came out. I think those cycles need to happen, which is why I'm saying that fundamentally, there is a great consumption story in India, you know, and I have no doubt on that market. I think the times are far better today. Opportunities are far better today than they were probably at any point of time. But I think we need to keep introspecting and saying, yes, we're going to keep at it, you know, and you have to, it's like a diamond. You have to keep polishing it till it shines, you know. And I think our talent here, I think on the production side, see, why have we become good on production? Because we've churned out, you know, hundreds of minutes of animation for the West, right? Why did we? Because when we started, we were all bad. Today, we've become good. Why? Because we produced that many hours, right? As producers, as content creators, how many scripts have we put out? How much of content have we put out that we created and saw it till then? I think the number is just not enough for us to really say, yes, we perfected that art.
Any questions from the audience on this topic, on this issue? Yeah. Bharat, the mic, please. Thank you. Yeah, getting it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think we are having a very valid and strong conversation, and I completely resonate with Mr. Prasad's viewpoint. I think the paradigm shift will come if you have mainstream directors work on animation films. I think that will take the quality of the work that we are doing to a next level. I think the reconciliation of animation with mainstream media, I think is the need of the hour. In the West, animation is the mainstream media. So I think this is the vital gap that we need to bridge with respect to our world and versus the Western world.
You know, but one point there, if you look at animation directors or, you know, people who directed animation globally, how many of them actually come from the live action space?
No, I'm saying there is a scope.
No, see, this is what I'm saying. It's the ability to understand the craft. I think here's what we have to understand, and I think most live action directors don't get this. You know, when you cast a Shah Rukh Khan, okay, or you cast an Amir, you get a great actor, right? You have to tell him, "Ye scene hai, sir, aapko ye karna hai." He will come and show you different versions of his interpretation of a character. When you're doing an animation film, that character is you. As a director or as a creator, that's you. You have to put that soul and character into him. You know, the amount of creative liberty that you have in an animation film is immense. right? And that requires practicing of that craft to that level, that you can extract that performance, because that performance is not going to come because you casted an actor. That performance is going to come because you conceived it so. You know, which is why I beg to differ. You know, I think that yes, you can have a great director supervise a story, which by all means you should do.
But that is
right?
what,
But when you talk about direction, you know, for an animation film, I think, you know, we need to groom people.
No, Mr. Munjal, what is the difference between animation film and the normal film for the audience? For him, it's a great story.
Agreed.
For him, it's a great storytelling. Right? Not the technology, not the kind of character it looks, not the kind of animation, renders, resolutions you have. He needs a great story. Absolutely. Now, if an animator gets into becoming an animation director, and then you call him an animation director, has he understood the storytelling aspect?
Okay,
it is better that...
I want to say
no,
something.
Let me finish it. Let me finish it, please. When you get a storyteller, work in collaboration with a great animation director. I'll tell you what, I have, my first film which Warner brought was directed by Mr. Jotin Goel, who had done Inam Dasazar, Zarile, Safari, various films. My second film was directed by Mr. Harry Baveja. Again, a great storyteller, great director. I have some IDC guys or IIDC guys who worked with them as an animation directors. You know, because major problem is storytelling. And if we are so good, then we should be successful. If we are not, then we can't continue to do the same way things, right? We have to just alter. We have to find another way. My way might be completely wrong, but at least there is another way. We are not banging on the same wall with the same way, right? That's the stuff.
Okay, yes,
so,
Vishal.
so I don't know, like, you know, what the animation director concept is here, because animation director is not responsible for the story.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So, yeah,
you are actually endorsing my point.
Yeah, so animation director is a kind of choreographer who decides how a character needs to move and how to give a personality to a character.
Absolutely.
So even
exactly
if it's
exactly my point you are endorsing.
Even if it's an animation movie, you have a director and then the animation director comes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was a bit confused there, like.
I am very happy Green Gold is saying that.
Yeah.
We endorse the point that you put
That means
up.
I am doing something right if Green Gold resonates with me.
If you have made 100 crores at the box office, you are certainly doing something right.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah,
Yes, one more question, Vivek, maybe? Yes, at the back. At the back there, please pass on the mic. Thank you. We'll take a final question, then we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, hi, this is Vivek from Lattu Kids. The question is, do you guys feel that India still lacks good writers when it comes to even animation? Like, animation, I believe, is obviously an art, but it's also more of technology because you're creating characters. There is some science required to create those characters. There is pre-production, but the actual writing talent, from what I have experienced, I feel there is lag, but any inputs from you, and how do we kind of develop this talent? Because without that, I think we can't kind of take it up ahead.
So I'm sorry, your question is on how do we groom writers? Yeah, okay. Yeah. See, I think it's, again, just brings back to the point I made earlier, that we need to produce enough, you know, and I think that's when you will have those writers, you know, becoming good. So I'll tell you, when I produced my first show in 2004, there was no animation writer. You know, I reached out to a friend who basically used to write soaps, right? After writing 3 episodes, one day he came up to me and said, "Nahi hoga mere se." So I said, "Okay, how do we do this?" He says, "The solution is that I sit in your studio, you know, for the next 6 months while we are producing this, and I will write." I said, "Superb. I mean, that's what I need." And that's what happened. Eventually, he sat working with my teams, understanding the process, because for him it was that मैं क्या लिखता हूँ और मुझे क्या दिख रहा है उसमें, that gap is not closing for me, you know. And I think that's where I think more often what happens today is that if you look at our own animation production, once a writer gives the script, he has no clue what happened out of it, right? That's not how it happens in the West. Right? The writer is an integral part of the production process. It's the same with live action, you know. So I'm saying that these are hard realities that we need to face, you know. So my one point advice is that involve your writer throughout, you know. Make sure that what he's written and eventually what you made, He needs to see so that the next time when he sits and starts writing, he's far better informed.
Okay, so maybe...
See, a couple of years back, even Amir Khan said that we don't have writers for normal feature films also. So writers is a difficulty in India. You know, that kind of a storytelling is not there. So, yeah, that pain is with everybody. And slowly it will evolve. We are optimistic. That's why we are in the business.
You know, like we are currently, developing a show with Mattel, and the way I worked on it was that I worked with a writer from New York, for it. And it was primarily because it was something that we were looking at for an international market. Now, moving forward, obviously the idea is that yes, we will have writers from India eventually coming on board it, right? But I think it's that understanding of how to write for animation. I think that sensibility is just far more evolved today globally, because that's what people have done. There are a lot of brilliant writers who have just been doing that for 15 years, 20 years, and doing a lot more. I mean, again, the point is the quantum. How many shows have you written, over the years defines, and eventually you become good at that craft. The more you practice your craft, the better you will become at it.
Okay, so really we have to wrap up this panel now. Thank you very much for this animation panel, which was very animated. So, thank you very much.